Hello, we're going to cover Algebra 1 1.3.3 quiz. And what I'm going to do for this section is I'm actually going to do the checkup problems, the practice problems in 1.32 in Apex. So I'm just going to kind of work through the checkup problem, the practice problems, and we'll go from there. And so I'm just going to use that as our example for this one. Now, so the first question, there we go. So the question number one on the checkup is 136. All right, so we have 13 equals 6 plus x, and the instructions are to solve the equation. So first thing I want us to do and get into a habit of doing is I want to create a river. Now, what the river is just a straight line that goes directly through the equal sign. And what this does is it separates the left side from the right side of the equation. All right. So everything that we need to do is it just needs if you do what you do to one side, you got to do to the other, right? It just keeps the equality there. So we have 13 equals 6 plus x. We want to solve the equation. So what are we solving for? Well, we're going to be solving for x. All right, that's the variable. That's our unknown. That's just what we're not sure what its value is. So we're solving for x. What is on the same side as x? Now, when I say side, I'm obviously talking about on the side of the river, the left side or the right side. So the x is on the right side. What also is on the right side? Well, the 6. The 6 is also on the right side. And what is happening? What is the 6 doing to the x? Well, the operation between the 6 and the x is a positive. So they're adding. How do you get rid of addition? You subtract. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. Again, notice how I did a minus 6 on the right side of the river and a minus 6 on the left side of the river. And what this does is it cancels out the 6's on the right side. I'm left with just x. And I have equal sign. Then here I have 13 minus 6. Well, that's going to be 7. So my answer to this problem is x equals 7. That's all we had to do. Now I'm going to go to the second question on the checkup. It is negative 4 plus x equals negative 19. Now the first thing I'm going to do, just like I did before, is I'm going to draw my river. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask myself, what am I solving for? Well, I'm solving for x. And then I'm going to ask myself, what is on the same side as x? Well, the negative 4 is on the same side as x. Then I'm going to ask, what is the negative 4 doing to the x? And now this one, if you look at the last one, we said that the 6 was adding. And it looks like there's an addition sign between the negative 4 and the x right now. So should we subtract, right? Because that's kind of, if we carry it over, we might subtract. I'm going to say no, and this is why. The negative 4, right, the 4 itself is negative. So we're going to take that negative and we're going to consider it subtraction. So this 6 over here was positive. So I'm going to consider it addition, and then we subtract. So this is a negative 4. So how do I get rid of a negative 4? Well, I need to add it, because I'm going to consider a subtraction. The opposite of subtraction is addition. So to get rid of a negative 4, I add a positive 4. All right. Negative 4 plus 4 cancels. I have x equals, well, negative 19 plus 4 is going to be a negative 15. All right, there's one positive and one negative. That means the number should be going down. All right, so we end up subtracting the two numbers, and you take the biggest sign. You always use a calculator to double check yourself, but negative 19 plus 4 is going to be your negative 15. So our answer is x equals negative 15. Now I'm going to go to the third question on the checkup problem. It's x minus 14 equals negative 2. Draw my river. And now I'm going to ask myself, what am I solving for? Well, I'm still solving for x, is the variable. And I'm going to ask, what is on the same side as x? Well, in this case, there's a negative 14 on the same side as the x. And what is it doing? Well, we're going to say that's a subtraction. How do you get rid of subtraction? you add, so we're going to add 14 to both sides. All right, so the opposite of the subtraction was going to be addition, and that cancels it out. So I have x equals, well, I have negative 2 plus 14. That's going to be a positive 12. There it is. Now, if you haven't already opened up the checkup from Apex so you can follow along with me, go ahead and pause the video and do that now. Question 4 is a little bit of a word problem. So I want to make sure you have that up and you can see it because I don't want to write it all out. All right, so Julia went to the movies and spent $15 on her ticket and popcorn. If the popcorn cost $7, how much did her ticket cost? Well, if I do this kind of like generically here, is she's going to the movie, she spent $15. Well, she bought a ticket, we'll call that T, and she bought popcorn, we'll call that P. And we know that she spent a total of $15. It adds up whatever she's paid for the ticket, whatever she paid for the popcorn, add them up, she spent $15. Now the problem tells us that the popcorn cost her $7. So what I can do is I can actually get rid of this P and make it a 7. All right, now this looks very similar to the problems we just did. I come in here, I'm going to go ahead and draw my river. What am I solving for? Well, now is the first time we haven't solved for x. We're going to solve for a t. So it doesn't matter what letter we use. They all kind of represent different things, but the big key is if it's a variable, if it's a letter, that means we don't know it. All right, so that's what we're solving for. I'm trying to solve for t, how much I spent on the ticket. Well, what's on the same side as the t? Well, it's that 7. How do you get rid of the 7? Or I guess the better question to ask is, what is that 7 doing to the t? Well, it's adding. How do you get rid of addition? You subtract. So I subtract 7 from both sides. Notice how every single time I've always done what I did to one side, I did to the other. I draw the river and I make sure that what I do on one side, I do the other side. Well, that cancels there. So I have t equals, well, 15 minus 7 is going to be 8. So that tells me my ticket cost $8. I had an $8 movie ticket. All right. Now we have a couple more example problems from the checkup. We're going to now go to question 5. Well, question 5 is 4x equals 24. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to draw my river right through the equal sign. I'm now going to ask, what am I solving for? I'm solving for x. What's on the same side as x? Well, that 4 is on the same side as the x. What is the 4 doing to the x? Well, what we have is we have a 4 next to the x with no operation sign. There's no plus sign, there's no minus sign, there's no division sign. Well, anytime we have that situation, we know it's going to be multiplication. So the 4 is multiplying the x. Well, how do you get rid of multiplication? You divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by 4. That cancels that 4. We're left with just the x. And then 24 divided by 4 is going to be 6. Now if I go ahead and go to, and I'm just going to skip to number 7. We have negative 7x equals negative 49. Well, what am I solving for? I'm solving for x. What's on the same side as the x? It's that negative 7. What is that negative 7 doing to the x? Well, it's multiplying. How do you get rid of multiplication? You divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by a negative 7. I'm bringing that negative along with me. Now I cancel that. I have an x. And now negative 49 divided by a negative 7 will be a positive 7. And that will be my answer. So even if there is a negative along with it, we must take it. If we're moving it away from the x, we got to take it as well, because we always want a positive x by itself. If there's ever a negative x, we're going to need to divide by a negative 1 or just get rid of that negative somehow. All right, so if there's ever a negative 7 like this example, we're going to divide by negative 7, not just 7. We want to take the negative away as well. We'll do one more example for you. We're going to do, let's do x over 3. This is question 9. X over 3 equals negative 4. All right. Draw my river. Ask myself, what am I solving for? Well, I'm solving for the x. What's on the same side as the x? Well, this 3 is on the same side. What is that 3 doing? Well, this little fraction bar we consider division, so it's dividing. How do you get rid of dividing? You multiply. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. So I have x equals negative 4 times 3 is going to be a negative 12. So my questions I ask are, I draw my river, and I ask, what am I solving for? All right, what's on the same side as that thing, that variable? What operation is it doing? And then what's the opposite? How do you get rid of it? And we repeat those steps as many times as we need until we get the x by itself or the t by itself or whatever the variable is.